from all the day takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? But guess what? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name. Yeah. What's going on? How you feeling out there? It's Wednesday, it's hump day, but we look at it around here as Wild Out Wednesday. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we got to talk about people who do like wild stuff. So, in the vein of saying that, but first, let me give our credit for people back in the day who know and remember that was the start to the Cheers theme song. It was like this bar up in Boston, as they say, where people go and, just kind of hang out. So, how it is. Tomorrow will be Thirsty Thursday, so just giving you a preview. Hopefully you got somewhere cool to hang out at over the weekend or before the weekend actually starts. So, the tyrannical tirade of Donald Trump continues. And, I guess just at this point, because this happened back during the first term, 2016 term. Once he was inaugurated in 2017, it was like the fireworks just started. And I said this before when it happened. I've never seen a politician or a president or anybody ever control and dominate the headlines like this guy. And in full disclosure, I used to love the show he had called The Apprentice. That's when I thought he was a halfway decent person, I guess. But so there are reports coming out, and as I always tell you, go check it out online. I was looking at People and a couple of other sources online, and it said that this guy, Donald Trump, has removed. Now, what I mean by removed, okay, we'll just put it like this, repositioned the portrait of President Obama to where if you were to go to the White House, it is in part of the quarters that are only for the first family and certain other people, all right, who can access the area. So basically, as a decent person of color, because like I talked about yesterday, all people in this country need hope, right? That's why it's supposed to be a melting pot. Certain people that may be Mexican American or any Arab American, any of all those people, you want to see people that look like you who've done a great job. And considering there have been 47 presidential slots, not necessarily 47 presidents, but 47 presidential slots because some have done 2 terms. The very one, the only one who has been, and I don't want to hear Abraham Lincoln was 1/8, 1/16, so a black guy and all that. He didn't look like it to me. No disrespect. But the one guy. So let's just say, for instance, if I wanted to take my kids to the White House on a tour, national tour, and I wanted to say, hey, look, oh my God, look. There is right in front of you the portrait, because they still kind of don't understand it yet because they're younger. But look, there is the portrait of the only black guy who's ever been the president of the United States. And probably the way we're going may not be another one, but that's for another time. But look, right there, you can see the portrait of Barack Obama. And you could say, hey, listen, because I'll tell you something. When I was in school and when most people like me were in school, around the wall, especially if you had world history class, I'm talking about elementary, middle school, possibly high school, or you had world history or whatever, it would always be, and I know in Philly they had a line like borders of presidents all around the classroom. All right. And none of them look like me. But you know what? I learned to live with it. I learned to deal with it. And I said to myself, even my 12, 11, 10-year-old self, and I said, hey, look, self, there's never any chance that somebody that looks like you could become the president. No way. And then it happened. And I remember talking to people and they cried and they were, and even people that were different colors or races, I should say, were happy, a lot of them. And felt like we were making a positive step in America. Because remember, the civil rights movement was only 40, 50, maybe 60 years ago, in its 50s and 60s. So it's not like we're talking hundreds of years ago. We're talking still a lot of people that have been hurt, a lot of people who have been killed because of the color of their skin. And so when I get people who stand up and say, oh, well, Trump's not this kind of guy. He's not that kind of guy. And I heard that he moved George Bush's, one of the Bush's portraits also, and everything like that out of the main viewing area from when people go to the White House to see it. But the one and only black guy. And see, this is what I'm saying about having a feeling. You may not remember everything that somebody's done for you, but you definitely can remember when somebody has hurt you. And that is a hurtful thing. That if I chose to go to the White House, I can't even look at the guy who was the one and only guy. And I don't care what anybody says. Oh, well, he represents Hawaii. Oh, well, he's biracial. Oh, well, guess what? He looks a lot more like me than the rest of those other guys that were up there. And that's fine, because guess what? Like I always say, you can't help how you were born. But after you're born, you can help how you react to things. You can control how you treat people. And this is a guy that continuously treats people in a bad way. And like I said, I don't knock anybody. You have the free right. You got one vote like I do to vote for anybody. But these are the things that make me upset when you have people who look like me, because I'm always going to keep it on me, but people who look like me who choose to vote for somebody who would do something like that to somebody that looks like you or me. Because that's what this country was founded upon, right? Hope. The American dream. That one day, people will, be equal, as Dr. King said in his speech. I have a dream speech. And then when you finally get someone in there, okay, you still have a guy. He doesn't even. What was the point of him moving the portrait? And some people may think, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal to you. And if it's not that big of a deal to you, it's not that big of a deal to you because you don't understand the complexity around being a black person in this country and not feeling like you're fairly treated a lot of the times. This is not to say that other people are not great people and that other people are not fair people that don't look like me. A lot of great people I've met that don't look like me. That's not the point. The point is that why is it always somebody that looks like me or something like that has to get put to the side when it comes to things like this? Like what, I know that it's his White House to live in for the next 3.5 years, but what was the point of doing that? Like somebody explain to me, what was the point of doing that? Oh, what, Obama's too popular? People always want to see the picture of Obama in there. They keep blaming Biden for stuff, even with the war thing coming up. They want to keep blaming Biden for, him being a part of that Ukraine-Russian war and all that other kind of stuff. What's really good? And it's funny to me, like nobody will come out, even the people who supported him that are black. Nobody will come out and say, yo, dog, that's corny. That's wrong. That's wrong. Like some of the stuff you're doing is wrong. Some of the other things he's doing, removing certain things out of the monuments and other buildings down there in Washington, D.C. Running around here now, chasing and locking up homeless people and doing stuff. And I get it. Nobody wants to be around a bunch of homeless encampments and everything like that. We had it here in Philly a few years ago where they had to clean it up because they had a large homeless encampment over on the Parkway near our art museum. But when you do stuff like this, what are you going to do to help people? And to help them is not to throw them in jail. It's not to throw them in jail. It's not to treat people like they're trash. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about where, you got people who, like him, who happen to be well off, who for the most part always have been well off, even through bankruptcy, I'm sure he was well off, making decisions for people and doing things to people that's just not right. And if that is what this country is supposed to be based off of, loving people, treating people good, doing the right thing about, for people and caring about people, that's not what's going on. But people want to sit around, and I'm not saying everybody, because a lot of you feel the same type of animus I do towards the situation. But a lot of people, especially go back and look at one of my other ones, the secret Trumpsters amongst us. People who have subscribed to this for what reason? Does anybody care about being a good person anymore? Does anybody care that the president maybe should be or conduct himself as a good, decent person? And I know it's not going to stop. I know it's going to keep going on and being worse and being dumb. But guess what? You should know one person on this earth, even though it's a lot of other people, who will say it and call it out as it is. Still respectful of the position of him being president, but still the way you treat people. And I'm really gearing this towards also to the people who voted for him, who feel that way. That's the reason why there's this battering ram effect of people who voted for him, because people that didn't vote for him or don't like him feel like the people that voted for him stand for this type of nonsense. That they stand for the continuation of a racial divide. That's why it's always so contentious when it comes down to talking about him. That's why most of the women in our community, or black women, don't like him. Have a huge disdain for him. Because he continues, basically without saying the N-word, but continues to treat people like crap that look like me. And it has to come to a point where, everybody has to stop thinking every man for himself. And I remember before, because you guys hear me talk now, but anybody that knows me, and a lot of you that watch know me, know that I've always kind of talked. And I remember one time somebody said to me, matter of fact, a few times people said to me, even before they know I used to do community service when I was back in my 20s and in my teens, started off working at 10 years old, 9 years old with my grandmother in the soup kitchen at Holsey Temple Church in Germantown, in the Germantown section of Philadelphia. So, serving people or being good to people has been in my makeup forever. Even though I'm not perfect, still being fair, making sure that people are okay is something that I've always cherished. So I remember before somebody would say to me, well, Greg, you do all of this talking, what do you do? What will you do? What such and such and such and such? And I said, well, check this out. One thing I ain't doing, I know I'm not going to march. That's not my twist. And I get it. Some people, that is their thing. And I respect it. But you know what I could do? Until they turn these airways off or this YouTube off, whatever, I can sit and I can talk. And I can say how I feel. And hopefully, one day, if I say how I feel, you say how you feel, other people say how they feel, and a collective as far as getting together and just saying, hey, listen, we're not standing for this. And what I mean by we're not standing for this, I'm not saying a civil war, but learning how to stand together and not need a leader as far as a Martin Luther King or a Malcolm X. Learning how to stand together and say, hey, look, because the sum of me is great enough to affect change, that I'm going to do it. My brothers that choose not to vote, my sisters that choose not to vote for whatever reason. Yeah, a lot of people don't believe in the democratic system or the system of voting or doing, their civic duty or whatever. But guess what? Whether you do it or not, you got to live in it. So at least if you got to live in it, at least make a vote, make a change and stand for something. So that way, at least in your heart and in your mind, and when you tell your kids and your grandkids and everybody else, hey, look, check this out. I made a change. If I go to the White House, I want to see that Obama picture, because you know what? It gave me hope when he got elected. But you tell me how you feel. You see how I feel. Live life. Don't let life live you.